one of the weaknesses in AI right now, and it's not very good at persistency. Feed the AI a prompt to get a character you like, but then to take that same character you just made and put it into different scenarios, that's not something the AI really understands at this point.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Doki Doki Drawing. I'm here with Yazuki Wolf. How's it going?
Hey, how's it going?
We're here to talk about AI. Sorry, I didn't answer your question. I'm doing very well, thank you.
That's right. It was more of a rhetorical.
I know.
Actually, I was actually asking the audience. Maybe
You mean you weren't asking me?
everybody together.
Will AI have a positive or negative impact on game development and anime? I don't know, first of all, why it accelerated so much in 2022.
Yeah, it's kind of insane.
Was it like people actually just started working on it more last year, or is it that it's been going for a long time and then for some reason, like did something get released as open source or something, and that's why it's suddenly exploding?
I mean, there's a lot of different AIs, and I'm not up to date with all of them, but I know that at least Stable Diffusion came out with an open source version of it, or maybe the whole thing is open source, I'm not sure. But at any rate, a lot of people kind of jumped onto that and made their own kind of open source progressions of the AI algorithms, which has progressed things quite a bit more than I thought it would in the past couple months or so.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at stuff on social media, I went from AI art went from being like something that I'd heard of maybe before. People had maybe talked about it being a thing maybe, and then suddenly there were like 8 or 9 different AIs going, and every video that people, especially the art community, they're like, wait, what, we finally just dealt with NFTs, we just finally got rid of that topic and we don't have to talk about it anymore. And then AI art comes along and it's just like, it's even worse. Like, you were scared of NFTs, now you don't even get to draw.
Yeah, it's probably on par with like the invention of photography or even just digital art. It's a huge development, I think.
My God, hadn't even thought about it in that way. Well, let's get straight down to the topic of games and anime. Is this a positive thing in game dev or, anime, like animation? Because when you think about it, game dev has always been a really hard slog of a job. And anime as well. Like, we work with animators at Doki Doki when we do these videos. And it just sounds like a hard job for low pay. Like, maybe robots should do it for us.
I don't know. It's kind of a tough question because I think there's a lot of people that want to do that work. So the first part of the question is the people that are going to be replaced by the AI. That's an issue, right? So it depends on what you mean by positive.
Okay, well, we're going to be actually doing another video on the career aspect later. Okay. So specifically, whether or not people continue getting to do jobs that they enjoy, specifically, could this actually improve the quality of games? My example I want to ask you today actually is: did you see there's a new Pokemon game that's just come out?
Only briefly.
Okay,
so I don't
I mean, a new Pokemon game comes out every year, but it's like a mainline game, so they wait like every 3 years for a mainline game. But this game looks significantly worse than every other Pokemon game that has ever come out because it's open world, and they have no experience. Well, apart from the very previous game was like kind of open world, but this time they're like, okay, mainline Pokemon game, open world, but you can't just make an open world game if you're not that used to it, right? It's like, that's a lot of resources. That's a lot of time. And they did it apparently in like a year. Like, they started planning it in 2019, but then they came out with other games in between. It's the same stuff. And then it's like, probably they didn't have much time to build this. Like, maybe AI could just make the game much better if they could have just asked the AI to sort out loads of animation stuff and textures for them.
Well, it's probably a different discussion, but I think that there's a lot more involved in the design process and just the workflows of how they build the game, more so than the time involved in it. I think I've played indie games that have been made by very small teams that have done open world really well.
True.
So, and we also already have procedural content in gaming. Like, it's that's kind of in the same vein as AI, where you can just kind of make a small batch of parts that can then be procedurally generated to make thousands of, or maybe even hundreds of thousands of variations, right? So I think the tools are already there. I think that's more of a studio management issue, probably. I think for the particular example of Pokemon, it's already fairly established of like what type of assets they're going to need and what type of like characters are involved in things. So I think AI is probably going to be more beneficial for someone that needs to do more concept work, like a project that has a lot of, say, for example, you want to do like a steampunk game set in the Renaissance or something, and you have like you have no idea what type of characters you want, what type of like settings you want. Well, the AI will be able to generate that sort of conceptual work that may have usually taken maybe half a year. It could probably do it in like a week or so
Right.
of just people just typing in different description prompts.
Okay. That is interesting because then they can get people making assets and doing stuff much sooner rather than
Right.
like going through the design process. But I mean, obviously, it's a shame because there could have been a human
Concept artists. Yeah.
doing that job. But at the same
Right.
time, it's like not worry. Since we're going to talk about careers in a separate video, for me,
Right.
what I find interesting is that probably a year or year and a half wasn't enough time to build Pokemon. But if, like you say, a
Right.
lot of the stuff could have been fixed using procedural tools or just different, better management, but also now AI tools, maybe the game that we're playing now could be much better looking and just
Right.
perform better. Because right now they've got like elements that when they shrink off into the distance, you know how they like slowly disappear because of the draw distance. Like
Right.
there are things that end up 2 frames per second in this game. It's just like by that point, maybe you should just remove it from the screen. What's the real
Yeah.
benefit of showing like a windmill a kilometer away running at 2 frames per second? What does that really prove?
Right. And this kind of is venturing into different discussion again, but like in terms of game development, there are a lot of solutions already for problems like that. You could make it into a low poly model when it's in the distance. You could actually even just make it like a single frame that has a 2D image projected on it, like facing the camera. Like there's so many solutions. So that's why I don't think it's necessarily a problem with the current technology. I think it's more just like the management and the kind of workflow of what of the decisions that are made and how they make the game,
Right.
probably.
That's really good insight from someone who's worked with games and works on their own games as well.
Right.
Okay, so moving on from gaming, how about anime? Because in my opinion, um, I like to watch anime, but I don't spend every episode going, man, this is some really quality in betweening. Oh wow, they really put some good effort into making this look smooth. It's like, look, I want to
Yep.
see where Goku goes next. I want to see, which member of Luffy's team is going to get in trouble, then he has to go and like dive into the ocean and save them. I like it's for
Right.
me, anime and manga especially, like all about those stories. I just want to know what happens next. Of course, it's really
Right.
nice when the animation is really smooth. Like for example,
Yep.
Gundam. The
Yep.
robots are always really smooth. They call it sunrise smooth for
Hmm.
Gundam.
Oh,
But
it's
it's like
interesting way of saying it.
but like it's only smooth because they spend all that extra time making animations like well one with 3D, but two,
Right.
like the robots get maybe 24 frames per second as opposed to characters which are all like 3 to 8 frames of animation per second. So if it were
Yep.
AI, if we had AI just handled in betweening, we could have
Hmm.
smooth animation on like everything that we watch and
Yep.
so what if the robots are doing it? Like this could
Mhm.
massively change just the quality of daily TV viewing.
Right. There's so many different approaches to it too. Like, you mentioned tweening, right? So like that's one thing you could do where you can have just the artist do the keyframes and then the AI can fill in the blanks. Another thing is like I thought about this when I was doing manga back in the day.
Mm,
Is there's so many sort of like how you say like angles that occur over and over again with various characters. Like you have the 45-degree angle, the
yeah.
45-degree looking up. Like if I was thinking about that when I was writing manga, I should just like make like a template of all those angles and then just copy it for every manga for every different character. Well, the AI can do that for you now too, where you can take something that maybe would have been a week of work of you doing a fairly common like scene and just tell the AI to do that, and it would already have sort of an idea of what that scene's supposed to look like. And then you can also take a different approach where instead of just being the tweening, you can actually train the AI based on your custom characters. So say you get a team of artists to make, or maybe even just a single artist to just make a lot of different angles of that single character, feed that into an AI to train off of, and now the AI can use that training to make all of the scenes that you need, maybe.
Amazing, right? So we're not even just talking about like getting an AI to invent characters and scenes for
Mm,
us, but we're like, okay, let's take the main guys who are in charge of the character designs and the
yep.
basic settings, like you say, and then
Right.
training like a new AI bot every time you make a new series to like do
Mm,
specific content for that one show.
Right, because I think one of the weaknesses in AI right now, and maybe this will be solved in the future, but it's not very good at persistency. So maybe you could feed the AI a prompt to get a character you like, but then to tell that character to take that same character you just made and put it into different scenarios,
Mm,
that's not something the AI really understands at this point.
right,
So
right.
that's why having the kind of training session where you give the AI exactly what the character is in different angles and have it train off of that would be beneficial.
That makes so much sense. I'm not sure if we need it though, because
Right.
with anime, yes, it is a hard slog, and the people who do
Yep.
it apparently don't get paid very much at all.
Yep.
And they get paid so little that people in Japan just won't do it, that they have to like outsource it to other countries to get to do it at like really
Right.
low prices. But at the same time, there's still like 24 different anime that come out every, or maybe it's more. Maybe I think there are like 50
Hmm.
anime that come out 4 times a year. So there's like
Right.
200, there's well, like somewhere between 100 and 200 shows probably
Yep.
every year. It's like, I don't know. Do we even really need more anime?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure the companies that are paying for it would like to pay less, so they'd be jump on the AI to make more.
Right.
Um, And I think if you were going to use AI to kind of industrialize, I don't know if that's the right word, but to basically just streamline the process, Japanese anime is probably a prime target because just the nature of anime in general is that they all kind of follow similar
Yeah.
tropes and they
Yeah,
all
for
kind of
sure.
follow similar styles. Unlike in the West where we have a little bit more personality. I mean, I'm not saying anime doesn't have personality, but you know what I mean? Like there's a kind of a artist touch to each different character in like Western style cartoons and stuff where it's
Yeah.
very recognizable. Whereas anime, it's kind of meant to be a pipeline where everyone is training with the same style, with the same tropes, and it'd be pretty easy for AI to jump in there, I bet.
Absolutely.
I guess going in games, though, I would say that there is a lot of stuff that I don't think AI really has tackled yet. So with anime, you just have 2D drawings that are going to be in animation, and those are two things that are AI is currently working on. But when you get to game design, you have 3D models that you need, and 3D modeling is a lot more complicated than people may think. So I don't know how easily that's going to be for AI to do that. And then even if you have the models, you have to bone things and like give them like an animation, like a rig that can be animated. So I think gaming probably still needs a little bit more work before AI is going to be super easily implemented into it.
I'm interested actually because with gaming it's a little bit different though because with 2D animation like what we're
Yep.
talking about with in betweening, you know, it's looking at a visual thing and it's making up its mind by what it's looking at. It's not being taught
Yep.
like well I understand that there's different ways to approach AI, but from what I've seen,
Yep.
it's just looking at what a three-quarter view looks like 6 million times and then making an image that looks a bit like those images, right? It's
Right.
not being
Yep.
taught how things are physically built from the ground
Yeah.
up.
Not like.
Whereas with
Mhm.
game content, if you just fed it assets
Yep.
from all your games, then it's got the opposite version of AI where it's like built from the ground up only. And then
Mhm.
in that regard, it's probably easier because now it has all the information that it requires. It's not estimating anything from like the visuals. So I kind of I kind of disagree. I think it would probably be easier for game dev to be taken over by AI generated stuff.
I guess it depends on what you're expecting the AI to do. If you're just giving it the assets that you made, um, like pre-made assets, and you're telling it to do stuff with those assets, then yeah, I think the AI. We already have procedurally generated content, which is kind of in the same vein as that, and the AI could kind of do stuff like that.
True.
But if you're trying to generate the assets with the AI, I think that's where it gets a little trickier.
I think one aspect where it would be harder for AI to succeed in gaming is getting access to the assets. Like
Mhm.
without just straight up hacking a server and taking the assets or like reverse engineering a game and taking the assets.
Yeah.
With
Oh, that's true.
yeah,
Yeah.
with anime art, no matter what you do to it,
Yep.
you can take a screenshot and you've got the
Yep.
image now. So the thing, I mean,
Right.
this goes back to the talk about NFTs earlier this year that everyone was talking about. But it's like,
Hmm.
no matter what you do to these JPEGs, you can still
Yeah.
copy them.
Yeah.
So
Right
it's like,
click.
in that regard, it might be difficult for AI to just steal assets, like I think it currently is for now, like for training purposes.
Right.
But for
You can't just
anime,
Google.
yeah, for animation and anime art, like Yeah, the world is the AI's oyster. There's nothing it can't really see.
True.
Even if you write your name in the corner and say like don't copy my image, it's like, do you think AI cares?
Right, and that's a whole other legal discussion there. But
Yeah, which
yeah,
we'll also be doing as a separate video. So this
right.
series, if you guys are interested, the series will be the effect of the effect of AI on animation and gaming. The second one will be careers, and then thirdly, like, what are we going to do to regulate this, if we're going to do anything at all? Listen, guys, I hope you've enjoyed this video. It's a very brief discussion. It's not like I've been studying AI or something, but both myself and Wolf, we've been in Japan for a long time, experiencing stuff with animation and gaming, and just AI has come in like a tornado, hasn't it, Wolf? So it's like, whether or
Yeah,
not you
definitely.
like it, we have to approach the topic.
And I guess one last thing is like, so I was experimenting it on my own, and originally I thought kind of the Japanese market would be like a safe area where AI wouldn't be able to touch it very well because the Japanese style is very unique and it's quite different than what you were saying when you were seeing like Dali's images and like even like uh, the standard stable diffusion and other AIs as well. But like you said, since it was made open source, there was an open source project where they made a AI that was specifically meant to do Japanese style, and within about a month that came out, and now it can do Japanese style art no problem. So there's no real area where the AI can't touch. It seems.
Yeah, I think with any discussion of AI, it's like there's the discussion of what's it capable of now, but then like theoretically, it kind of it's kind of limitless. So it's like,
Right.
got to keep every discussion like in perspective. We are going to be making the other episodes, so stay tuned for them when they go up. Be sure everyone to check out Wolf's channels. We'll put the links in the description below. Thanks very much for today.
All right. Check you later.
See ya.